Hey guys, today I thought it'd be fun to do a quick review of the first episode of the new Horus Heresy related animated series that just released on Warhammer Plus a couple of weeks ago. And should go without saying, but there will be spoilers in this review, so just be aware of that. The main focus of the story of the episode and in fact of the series, is the Warlord Titan Aurora Ferrum and her crew. And mainly it's the Princeps that the show focuses on, but there is a supporting character who is one of the Titans Moderati. And the show is set during the siege of the Imperial Palace. Seems pretty late in the siege. Things seem pretty desperate, and so the story is put in motion by the Princeps' decision to outfit her Titan and sortie out onto the battlefield to fight. And we're not given a lot of details, and that's something I'll talk about later. We sort of have to infer. The show is called Kill Lupercal, so I presume that there will be some opportunity later in the show where they think they may have a chance to kill Horus. But that isn't really explicitly stated anywhere in the script or in the show. So anyway, they plug into the Titan, they get ready, and they sortie out. They encounter some enemies in the form of some infantry, some Sons of Horus infantry who are fighting on the battlefield, and destroy them. And they then they detect and prepare to attack a traitor Titan Maniple after they've linked up with some friendly Titans of their own. And that's more or less where the episode ends. We're left with a cliffhanger when an enemy Titan appears very close to Aurora Ferrum and more or less ambushes them. We're not really given much more than that. We just see a final shot of like a Titan foot approaching. So that's the basic plot of the episode. There's some nuance there. But let's talk about what was good about this particular episode. And I think the main thing, I think we can all agree if you've seen the episode, that the animation I think is very good. It looks like it's by the same production team that did Angels of Death, which was also excellent, and as well as Broken Lance, which I actually haven't watched, but I probably will if I continue with this series. I think in general the animation very good. The Titan in particular has a good, although there are a few patchy bits, but in general, I think it has a good sense of weight. And I think it's easy to make things like a Titan look unreal, not right when they're animated, just because it doesn't always capture that sense of weight and intention that something like a Titan should have. But I think they do a very good job of portraying that here in this animation. And I also think that the facial expression for our protagonist, the Princeps of Aurora Ferrum, is done very well. It's very expressive. I think it's only unfortunate that she's really the only face that we get to see. I understand that's probably just a production restriction, a limitation, because they just may not have the time or the money to animate the facial features of another character. So I can forgive that. I think the dialogue in general is very good, very relatable. Seems to fit the time and the place and the mood of the action. There are a few campy bits here and there. I thought there's a bit at the beginning where a tech priest is sort of giving an operational percentage rating of a Titan, um, and he gives some kind of lifespan of a Titan at the certain operational rating. I think that is a little cliche. There's a few other bits like when 9X, I think is the name of the one of the Moderati, he kind of hits the console. There's just a few areas there where I thought it was a little bit too maybe lighthearted for the situation that they were in. But on the whole, the dialogue is well written. It's delivered very well. I think the voice acting is top notch. Um, I don't have any issues with the voice acting at all. I think it's very well done. The music by, I think, Jonathan Hartman, I think is his name, is very good as well. I think he did the music for Angels of Death, and I think quite a few other of the Warhammer animations. I think he's an award-winning composer. There are some negatives, however, that I'd like to bring up, and the main one is just with the script. And the main issue that I have with it is that it does not provide enough context for what's going on in the show. And that I noticed almost immediately when there's really no details given to us, to the audience, about their mission, about their goal, that we don't know who they're going to attack. Uh, we don't know what they're really trying to do, other than just sort of this vague intention to go out and fight and defend the palace, which maybe is where they're at this point in the siege of the palace, right? There's no command and control. There's really no coordination. Everybody's just fighting on their own, doing what they can when they can. And that's fine. But I think it would be important, and it would add to the drama of the show if that had been spelled out, because we really don't get that. We don't know what they're trying to do. We don't know where they're going, or even really where they are at the beginning. We don't know why they're doing what they're doing, and we don't know how they're trying to do it. And because we don't know these details except in their broadest strokes, it really robs, in my opinion, the action of the show of the importance, because there's no context, there's no concrete stakes for success or failure that have been established in the narrative of the show. And so, because of that vagueness, there's really nothing investing the audience into what happens and the success or failure of our characters. And I think this is a common issue with Warhammer fiction. I see it almost all the time. I read a book or watch another animation, and it's almost always this issue occurs. And I think there's a couple of reasons. I think the first is often that people just love, and it's not just Warhammer. I mean, this happens with other products as well. But people love one particular aspect of something. So in this case, it might be, oh, I think Titans are really cool. I want to see Titans moving and fighting and shooting guns. And they forget that what makes that cool is the context that sort of wraps those up, um, and provides some kind of contextualized whole. And so they focus on the cool things, and that's easy to do. What's not so easy is to provide that meaningful context that we just discussed: the who, what, when, where, why, how, even though really those elements are the basics of any writing, or should have been the basics of any writing instruction, and in fact are the basics of any military operation. And I think that leads us to the second reason why we don't get that context so much, is because not a lot of writers have military experience. Even people who write, stories for war games and miniatures games. And that's not to say that you have to be a soldier or have military experience to write engaging and interesting military fiction. But I think it just makes it more difficult, because you may not consider some of these things that a soldier or somebody with military experience might have a better chance of just having more experience with, and being better conversant with. And if you don't think about military things, I think it's easy to sort of just set those aside and focus on what is easier. And that's, we have something cool, let's write about that, let's show that in action. And we don't need to worry about why these characters or why these assets are being employed in the way that they are. And So unfortunately, I see that happen here in this show, and there's also I see it all the time in other places. That's why I think so many superhero or military science fiction shows focus on super weapons, because that's a very easy thing for the audience to grasp, and it's a very easy thing for the writers to point to as the success or failure of the mission. Whereas real military operations are a lot more complex, they're a lot vaguer, more vague, maybe would be a better way of saying that. And so, anyway, uh, that's enough about that. But that's the main issue that I have with this show so far. There is one point where the Titan has just left, Aurora Ferrum has just left the Imperial Palace, encounters a group of Sons of Horus infantry who are firing at it with missile launchers, it looks like. And it shows the Titan sort of walking over them. And uh, then it almost immediately cuts to them in the cockpit, and they're looking through, or the crew of the Titan is looking through their sensoria scopes, and they find Sons of Horus infantry. And this seems like a big surprise, even though they were just being fired upon by Sons of Horus infantry. And the infantry are shown to be very far away. And so then Aurora Ferrum fires at the infantry, destroys them, and then we immediately cut, as though nothing happened, to Aurora Ferrum advancing and joining up with other members of her maniple that are supporting her. And this just seemed like a very disjointed sequence. I think it's about in the middle of the episode or towards the earlier part of the second half. It seemed almost like they were in the editing room and they're like, we don't have any action in this episode. Let's throw in some scenes of Aurora Ferrum just mowing down some infantry with her mega Gatling blaster. And it seems like that just got inserted and it didn't really fit too well. So those are all the big structural negatives that I have to say about the episode. I do have a few nitpicks. The first is that the animation is pretty dark. I think that's probably just a production values thing. I think it was the same in Angels of Death. I think having a dark shot just makes it a little easier to get away with having less detailed character animations and models. So, not a big issue. Would have liked to have seen it maybe a little lighter, a little easier to read on the screen. The other thing, and this is going to get a little nerdy, but moderati is the plural of moderatus, which is the singular masculine. So if you are addressing multiple, if you're a princeps and you're addressing multiple of your subordinates, you would use the plural. If you're addressing just one, then you would use the singular. So the princeps addressing 9x, I believe is his name, would call him moderatus. If it was a female, a woman, it would be moderata. So not a huge deal, but it's an important aspect of the Titan's functioning. So if you are a Titan princeps, be informed of the appropriate appellation for your subordinates would be based on the singular or the plural, based on the situation that you find yourself in and whom you are addressing. The last kind of nitpicky thing is that I would have liked to have seen more sentience from the Titan during the link up scene when she plugs into the Titan, when the Princeps plugs into the Titan. We get a vague sort of animalistic sense. The foghorn goes off when she's in the sort of the dream world, the foggy dream world, where she's communing with the machine spirit of the Titan. And I just would have liked to have seen maybe just a little bit more, some idea of some vast creature out in the fog, some mental presence that just would have made the Titan feel a little bit more alive, because that's the image that I have. And maybe that's incorrect, but I just have this image that these Titans are ancient creatures that sort of have accumulated sentience from hundreds of maybe thousands of years of princeps linking in and contributing part of their consciousness to the machines. So, not a huge deal, but something I would have liked to have seen. So, overall, I'd say this is an excellent addition so far to the Warhammer Plus lineup. If you haven't seen it, I definitely would recommend that you go watch it, especially if you're a fan of this channel, you're a fan of the Horus Heresy. I think it's definitely worth a watch. Warhammer Plus is, I think, $7-ish a month. Um, so I think that's worth it for watching this. I mean, this is part of our hobby, in my opinion, is being part of these episodes, this lore building that GW is trying to do for the Horus Heresy. There are, I think, 2 more episodes of Kill Lupercal on the way. So if you don't really want to spread out your Warhammer Plus subscriptions too much, I think you could definitely wait maybe a couple weeks until the last episode is released. Subscribe for a month, watch them, and then unsubscribe. And I think $7 for part of the Warhammer community is not a huge investment, even if you don't make use of it in any other way. I think supporting Games Workshop and these animators for producing this content for us, I think is for $7 is a pretty small ask. As far as the final evaluation of the show, this episode, I would say this is probably a B for me. Astartes would be S tier. And then Angels of Death, well, maybe I'll do a separate review on Angels of Death sometime in the future. But I think this is not quite as good as Angels of Death. So, um, yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think I rambled on for a little, maybe longer than I should have. I think this review is maybe longer than the show itself, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about it and about everything else I rambled on about. If you did, let me know in the comments down below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. And yeah, especially comment and let me know what you thought about the show if you've seen it and did you agree or disagree with my analysis. So I always like talking with you guys down in the comments, and I'll look forward to it. So more videos to come. I'll see you in the next one.